Apparently, the John Tyner saga is far from over. A little bit of backstory. John Tyner was going on a hunting trip with his father-in-law flying through the San Diego airport. He was pulled out of the metal detector line to use one of those full-body imaging scanners. He said, "Thanks, but no thanks. I assert my right to say no." He was then told he would have to be subject to an enhanced pat-down. Not just the standard, I will take the back of my hand and rub it along your body, but I will use the front of my hand and use my fingers to go up into your manly crevices to make sure you're not hiding anything in your panties. On a personal note, I can completely understand why John Tyner refused the enhanced pat-down. I would refuse it too. Generally speaking, I don't let strangers touch me in that type of fashion unless they have several medical degrees on their wall, and it happens to be a yearly appointment that I, as a female, have to make. Other than that, not so much. Sure as hell isn't going to be a stranger done in the middle of an airport. That will not make people safer, because as I said in the other video, and as many critics have explained, the problem with relying on these full-body scanners is that they don't actually see what's inside your body, and we all have those convenient orifices we can use, to smuggle stuff. It happens all the time. But I digress. The reason the saga isn't over is that what John Tyner was told as he left the airport by an unidentified member of the TSA, that he was going to be subject to a civil lawsuit and a fine of up to 10 grand, is inaccurate. Apparently, he's opening, or has opened himself up to criminal prosecution and an $11,000 fine. I'm not really sure what criminal prosecution can occur because I don't know what laws he technically broke. Last time I checked, there aren't any statutes that say once I step into the TSA security line, I am required to go through the TSA security line. But that's their whole argument, was that essentially because he entered into the screening process, he was required by law to finish it. However, that's been nowhere on any ticket I've ever purchased to fly on an airplane. I mean, he said, I'm not going to go through the enhanced pat-down, and I'm not going to go through the full-body scanner. And, I checked to make sure that San Diego wasn't on the list. It wasn't on the list that I saw. If I'd known it was, I wouldn't have flown through this airport. He said, I will, not fly in the plane. Just give me a refund. I'll go home. We'll call it a day. At what point was he required to go through the process? And what authority does the TSA have to tell someone that they are required to go through the security process if they are not flying on an airplane? Because from the moment that John Tyner got a refund for his ticket, technically, he didn't have a valid ticket any longer and couldn't have gone through the security process, because only people who have valid tickets are allowed to go past the security checkpoint, meaning that because he no longer had a ticket and had engaged in a refund, had they put him through the security screening process, he would have ended up on the secure side of the checkpoint, something that the TSA doesn't allow. So for me, what boggles my mind, if you will, is that somehow we all, as airplane flying public individuals, are required to finish the screening process once we start it, despite the fact that I've never signed a contract stating that that's the case, nor have I ever seen it written or printed anywhere that that was the case. Moreover, that the TSA is attempting to break one of their own rules, which states that only those with a valid ticket are allowed past the security checkpoint. He didn't have one, so why are they wanting him past that checkpoint? To prove a point? Honestly, my opinion regarding the full-body scanners is no secret. I think they're a terrible idea. Personally, I'd rather my TSA agent get better at doing the job they already have than trying to make their job more complicated and add more layers and expecting them to be more effective at it. Moreover, maybe I am in the minority. that I don't want images of my body projected onto a screen for someone who's never seen me in real life to look at. Maybe that makes me crazy. Maybe that makes me super prudish. That's cool. I'm okay with that. Because as one of the news stories that covered this pointed out, we're just being told that these machines make us safer. But do they? If the TSA told us that we had to hop up and down on one foot while humming God Bless America for our airline safety, would we just do that too? If I believed, truly believed, that these scanners would make me much safer, not just safer on an airplane, but significantly, drastically safer, maybe my opinion would be different. Maybe I would support them being used. But as of right now, whether or not they actually make airplanes safer is questionable. And I think in a lot of ways they actually make airplane travel less safe. They provide a band-aid, making people think that they're safer, that airline travel is safer, when in reality it's not. These machines allow people into being fooled and fooling themselves into believing they're safe when they're not. And in my opinion, that's not safe. Realizing how safe we truly are, whether that's unsafe or not, the degree, the reality of our safety is what's most important. Because if we don't recognize the true reality of whether or not we are safe in any given situation, we can't make informed decisions about what to do about that safety. To me, the full body scanners are just an illusion of safety. And I applaud John Tyner and all of those like him who've told the TSA, no, I'm not going to go through those full body scanners. I'll go through the metal detectors. I'll be subject to a regular pat down, but I'm not going through that scanner, and you can't make me. And if I ever get the opportunity, really hope I don't, but if I'm ever presented with that opportunity, I'll make the same decision. Because there is absolutely nothing a TSA agent is going to say to convince me to go through something that I think is just a big fat joke in the first place. And you know what? I hope John Tyner wins. I hope that this incident brings to light the fact that we, the public, supported these scanners, though not me personally, the public as a whole, supported the implementation and use of these scanners because we thought they would make us safer, and because we were reacting out of fear after the underpants bomber. But maybe now it's been long enough that we don't have to react out of fear anymore and can sit here and logically ask the question whether or not these are going to make us safer. And if they don't, are they really worth using? Some people might be okay with those type of images being transmitted of them. I'm not one of those people. It's just not right for me, but my position may not be right for other people either. But the question is whether or not it's really necessary in the first place. Is it really making us safer? Not so much. And in my opinion, regardless of any of the specifics regarding a security measure, if you can't prove to me that it actually makes me safer, why should I stick my neck out? And yeah, I want airline travel to be safe, not only for myself and my loved ones, but for everybody else too. Right? Simon agrees with me. But I think that an important consideration is at what point does that desire for safety override everything else? Because I like my constitutional rights. I like my right to privacy. I like all of the rights that the Constitution directly states and also implies. And while I want to be safe, at least for me, if I don't have my rights protected, am I really safe anyway? Because if the TSA, the government, or anybody tries to force me to engage in an activity that I consider to be a breach of my privacy in the illusion of safety, then I'm not really safe anyway, because I'm not safe by having my rights protected. My rights are being violated in order to engage in an action. I'm being forced to go through these scanners to get on an airplane. And if my rights have to be violated in order for me to be safe, then maybe that safe isn't worth it. Because I'll tell you this, I think the world would be significantly safer if we lived in a nanny state where there was cameras on every single street corner and a policeman on every block enforcing all laws, where the slightest infraction got you dealt with swiftly. There would be hardly any crime because, Big Brother is watching. But I will take living in this flawed, imperfect world where occasionally walking to my car after class becomes a little dicey because it's dark and I'm alone. I will take that world where I'm not always safe and I have to look out for myself in entirely too many situations than one where I am perfectly safe, but only because Big Brother is watching. Because it's not a world worth living in, if you ask me. It's why it makes me sad when people say they're willing to sacrifice their privacy for their safety in terms of these scanners. Because they're sacrificing their privacy and their rights for nothing. And in my opinion, if you're going to make sacrifices like that, we should at least get something out of it. If not safety, the TSA should at least offer us delicious cookies instead.